Welcome to lesson 36 on rotations. There are 3 things I want you to look out for today during the lesson model. Watch how we can identify the direction and angle of rotation, how we can estimate the location of vertices in the image, and how we precisely rotate and map the image. Now let's do a little bit of thinking, and again we're looking at this rotation of our original would be the red. And I want you to imagine that movement happening. Imagine if you were taking this red image and you were rotating it around. What would happen to the image when you would rotate it in any direction? Could you spin it and get this second figure, this blue one? Could that happen? So thinking about this red figure here, is there a way for me to rotate it and create this blue image? No. This is actually a flip image. So this is an example of a rotation. There's no way for me to spin, like if I were to take this trapezoid, if I were to spin it 90 degrees, it would just look in this direction. If I were to spin it 180, I know it would just look like that upside down. If I were to spin it again, it would look this way and then back to its original rotation. So that wouldn't work. How about with B? Could you spin it to get to this figure? Yeah, you can flip it one time over. If I did 90 degrees clockwise, so if I spun it to the right one time, 90 degrees, I can get that image. Or I could actually do it counterclockwise, 270 degrees. That image will show. And how about with figure C? Is there a way for me to spin it to go from this image to this image? They look exactly the same. So what would have to happen for me to have this congruent image? I would have to go full circle. I would go 360 degrees. Clockwise or counter clockwise. Okay, Math Marvels, I've written out all our patterns here, so I have them so you can again continue to use them. But if you still need to move your paper around, do that. In the beginning, that was really helpful for me to see the movement and to understand how the movement was translated on the page. So if you need to see it, by all means, you can rotate and then figure out what points do I see. Just write them on the side. But we're going to look at this example. We're rotating this image 270 degrees clockwise. So we're going to use this pattern right here. And the pattern that we're using, I'm just going to put it here. That means our XY coordinates are going to flip. So you're going to have a Y and then an X, they're flipping. And your first coordinate is going to be its opposite. So that's going to be the first thing that I want you to just notice. The other one is going to be the same. In this image, we're starting with this figure, which is in quadrant 1, 2, 3. So we're starting off here and we're going to rotate 270 degrees clockwise. So to the right, this would be 90 degrees, 180, and here's 270. So we're going to end up over here in quadrant 4. So that's going to be our goal. So I'm going to try and use this generalization to figure out the points before I actually graph them without moving the page. Okay, so I'm going to start with, let's start listing the points first. I'm going to list Q, which starts off at -6, -3. Then we have R, which is at -1, -3. S, which is at -1, -6. And T, which is at -6, -6. So remember, what we're going to do is we're flipping these numbers around. And this one is going to be is opposite. All right, so let's jump in. Let's try this one out. So for Q prime, Remember, I want the opposite. So instead of just turning this into a -3, I want its opposite to be just +3. So +3, -6. So +3, -6. Here is my first point. This is Q prime. Let's do R prime, which would be +3, -1. +3, -1. Here's R. And this makes sense, right? Because look at how far R is just 1 away from this axis, and R is one away from this axis. And the Q is 6 away, and this Q is 6 away. So it's still the same image, it's just rotating. All right, so let's look at S prime, and we have 6, -1. So let's do that one again. 6, -1. So here's our S prime. And T prime is going to be 6, -6. And so here's our new figure. I'm just going to connect all the points so you can see it, and there you go. We have our new figure here. It is rotated. We flipped it around to get to this area, and you can see, like, when I think about this axis and the R and the S in its positioning, R and S is right next to it. Here, R and S is right next to this axis. So we can see that it is the same figure. They are congruent. It's just rotated around, but they are exactly congruent. So here's my image. It is now labeled. Here is my pre-image, and this is my new image right over here. So hit pause so you can jot this down. And you'll probably notice that this pattern is going to be incredibly helpful. You'll probably need to use it as reference. But again, if you need to rotate the page so you can see what's happening, go and do that as well. So that's it for today, Math Marvels. I hope this was really helpful, but this is a type of lesson that it doesn't always sink in the first time. When you hear it, you have to practice it. So get lots of practice, lots of at-bats, and ask lots of questions to your peers and to your teachers to see if you're not seeing what's happening or you're having trouble with it. Just reach out to others. That's it for today, Math Marvels. I will see you in the next lesson. Take care.